They told me it would be. I can't get up here. I gotta have this.
We've got some difficult days ahead, but it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
Dedication ceremonies for the National Civil Rights Museum.
Good morning, I'm Blair Underwood. See what happened, Jessie? Cybill and I are very pleased to serve as your host for this most historic occasion in Memphis today. And what a historic occasion it is. The National Civil Rights Museum will be the first of its kind in the world to showcase the American Civil Rights Movement in exhibit form. Of for civil rights and human dignity is a cause that should interest us all. I have obviously long been interested in the proud history of African Americans and inherently support equal rights for all Americans, regardless of race, creed, sex, or religion. And I've recently, in the last 2 years, completed 2 films that reminded me all too vividly of the sacrifices that have been made to show that all of us are indeed created equal. Today, on the 4th of July, we honor freedom, not only freedom for outside forces, but freedoms gained inside America's borders. That's why I wanted to be here today, and thank you for having me.
On April 4th, 1968, I stood on the back porch of East High School facing downtown and cried. Martin Luther King had been killed. How could that terrible crime have happened in my hometown? I felt shocked and ashamed. Why hadn't I acted on my beliefs and marched? Why hadn't I been part of the movement? Well, today, I'm extremely proud to be a part of this great movement for freedom and equality. When I told a friend that I was returning home for the dedication of the National Civil Rights Museum at the Lorraine Motel, she said, "It's a great thing, but why have it at the Lorraine Motel where Dr. King was assassinated?" I told her it was because Memphis has acknowledged the stain on her past and now honors all those who strive for truth, justice, and tolerance. We must never forget, we must never give up the fight. With the current political atmosphere in this country, our civil rights, our reproductive rights, and our right to be free of undue governmental interference are all in jeopardy. But I remain hopeful for the future, for as Dr. King said, we shall overcome, because the arc of a moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. This museum is a symbol of that bending towards justice. Thank
you. Legends. It is now my humble, very humble, responsibility right now to bring you a man famous in his own right, who wanted to come here and introduce one living legend. We are very pleased to have with us today an award-winning performer, an Academy Award nominee, familiar to all of us, that's right, from his films Driving Miss Daisy, Glory, and now Robin Hood. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Morgan Freeman.
You do me great honor. I thank you. Well, speaking of legends, it now becomes my humble responsibility to introduce a legend. This magnificent lady, with a small act of tremendous courage, changed the course of our nation. By refusing to give up her seat on a city bus to a white passenger, she charted a course that remapped American society. She didn't set out to be a hero. Like so many others we now call legends, she just wanted dignity and respect. Can you imagine how much courage it took for her to stay on that seat? How much it pained her and millions of others every time they had to move to the back of the bus? And how much she suffered being put in jail for simply saying, "No, I won't move." On December 1st, 1955, in Montgomery, Alabama, this lady was put behind bars. On July 4th, 1991, in Memphis, Tennessee, we say thank you. Now, if you'll just hold on one moment, I have her voice. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Rosa Parks.
is truly a great day here at this museum. I can recall when I learned of Dr. King being shot, how hurt I was. I became physically ill just to think about this tragedy. And I also remember that when I came to Memphis the day to join the march along with Mrs. King, that I could not even think about coming to this site. I did not want to see the place where he had lost his life. But today I'm very happy and proud to be here and to be a part of the opening of this museum. And it makes me feel great and happy and just proud to be here and see all of this wonderful audience and the participants of this program. I came in yesterday, no, actually the day before, but I was here yesterday. And it is truly a tribute to Dr. King and a great accomplishment of Memphis, Tennessee, and the nation. And I'm looking forward to participating anytime and every time I'm invited. Thank you very much, and may God bless all of you. And I'm hoping that this is just the beginning, and that this will grow and grow, and be a great, great tribute to all of us who believe in full freedom for all people, regardless of race, color, creed, or religion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Park. This museum we are dedicating today was made possible by the state of...
And a very special recognition to my fellow Memphians who are here today to join in what, without a doubt, is an appropriate way to celebrate the founding of a nation whose very reason for existence is the thirst for personal freedom, so evident throughout this facility. Because there are so many today that wish to express their personal thoughts, we're limited in time that we're allowed to express how we personally feel. But I prefer today to think this facility not as a museum, but more of an experience to be preserved in time and passed on to generations that are yet to come. The lessons preserved here will be a reminder of the personal sacrifices of our forefathers identified over 200 years ago, and that's the rights and the privileges of an American, and that we're all created equal. Let us commit ourselves, each and every one of us here today in Memphis, and all of us collectively, to influence and to continue to grow and progress the greatest free society yet known to man, the United States of America in Memphis, Tennessee.
It is my privilege to introduce Shelby County Mayor William Morris.
Thank you very much, Cybill Shepherd, and to the distinguished governors and special platform guests, and to all of you that have come to Memphis today for great leadership in this city to lead the civil rights struggle in this country than any other city in America. And that's a good reason for it to be here. Secondly, most of us will remember the night before Dr. King died, he stood in the Memphis pulpit and he said he had seen the promised land. This museum then is a symbol that not just Memphis, but all of America still seeks the promised land where racial prejudice and personal difference can be set aside for the public good for all mankind. This museum then is proof that the people of Memphis, Tennessee can join hands, that out of old wounds can come unity, and that we can rise above the past and reach together for a bright future. With this new unity that we realize is here today, we can build more than a civil rights museum. We can build the city that our people desire and our children deserve. Yes, Dr. King had a dream. So do we in Memphis, Tennessee. His life and our city are inextricably bound together. And now we have the opportunity to reach for our dreams by honoring his. here today at this museum. And remember this, locked in the Birmingham jail cell, Dr. King wrote a letter which said that someday the South will recognize its real heroes. The real day will come when the South knows that these disinherited children of God, when they sat down at a lunch counter, they were in reality standing up for what is the best for all in the American dream. So the message today, I believe, is, in this Civil Rights Museum opening, will be that we should realize more than ever before that we should work together to make sure that his dream should come true for all Americans, and 4th of July is a day that should make it even more important. I'm delighted to be here with you. Congratulations, and thank you very much.
Maybe you want to become a citizen of Memphis. Is that all right? Okay. A couple of months ago, the Memphis Advertising Federation and Goals of Memphis got together on a project to honor this great museum. These volunteers came up with a program to foster brotherhood and sisterhood within all Memphis area schools. The program is called Unity Begins With You, a fitting sentiment for today's festivities.
Now I'd like to introduce 4 of the hundreds of children involved in this effort. Brian Walsh from Christian Brothers High School, Tracy Nunn from Bartlett High, Derek Smith from Memphis Catholic, and Winifred Kearney from Overton. Help me welcome them.
Good morning. I'm Winifred Kearney. In honor of Dr. King, to our most distinguished guests and fellow Memphians, I would like to briefly tell you about the Unity Begins With You campaign. It was developed by the Goals for Memphis and Memphis Advertisement Federation. This widespread project is one to encourage individuals to overcome the prejudices that we have instilled in our society for many years. It will also contribute the opportunities of people being able to understand the movement of civil rights. Presently, the campaign's focus is upon the young people, which will give birth to an exemplary generation that has been motivated to overcome racial conflicts. The organizing of the project began with several meetings of the student representatives. They shared their ideas of what an individual's duties are in overcoming racial conflicts. The ideas were collaborated and the Unity Pledge was developed. It was then printed and distributed to each high school and junior high schools in Shelby County. Each representative developed individual campaigns and encouraged their fellow students to sign the pledge. There are also commercials, t-shirts, posters that publicize the Unity logo. The logo is a capital letter U in yellow, red, brown, black, and white, which represents the racial unity that we hope to accomplish with our efforts, along with yours and the generations to come. With this accomplishment, we not only help fulfill the dream of Dr. King, but most importantly, the will of God. Thank you.
Good morning to everyone. My name is Tracy Nunn, and I was the Unity representative for Bartlett High School. During Brotherhood Sisterhood Week, Bartlett High School was one of many schools that grasped for and actually attained a true sense of unity. The Unity campaign opened doors for many of us struggling for a change. It opened eyes of many others who saw no need for change, and it warmed the hearts for a few who previously did not even want to change. Unity is a very strong and powerful word. It is one that links people of yesterday and today, people of today and tomorrow, and all races alike, each with its own individuality. Knowing that the future of the nation is at stake, we, the students of today, leaders of tomorrow, and fighters for the dream of racial equality, signed our names to the National Civil Rights Museum Pledge for Unity. We signed all as brothers and sisters, struggling for the same cause. And we do not merely dream on, we all, as a united force, fight on. Thank you. Also at this time, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank many of the people that gave us students the opportunity to become a part of the Unity campaign. Barbara Jacobs, Aurelia Kyles, Linda Bailey, and everyone else who gave us this opportunity. We loved it, and we thank you.
My name is Brian Walsh. I'd like to read the Unity Pledge. As a student, I know the future will soon be in my hands. It is important for my generation to understand that unity among all races is important, for we can accomplish much more together than we can separately. We must remember the iniquities of the past, but look to the future. There is much for us to do. I must do my part. I must teach others. Only then can we really achieve brotherhood and sisterhood. I pledge to work for unity in all my dealings with others every day and in every way.
We are pleased to accept these thousands of signed pledges, which will become a permanent part of the museum. At this time, I'd also like to recognize other members of the Unity effort who are with us today in the audience. Would all the Unity kids wave your hands? Let's see. Yeah, let's see it. Let's hear it for them. You know that the future is in your hands, and from Rosa Parks' example, one person can make a difference. We thank you for setting an example for your generation and for all of us to follow.
I understand that when Dr. King was asked what song he would like to hear, his request was almost always the much-loved Precious Lord. Here to perform that moving spiritual for us today is the Roxy Gunter Singers.
like to introduce a man who has played a very important part in our being here today because he made the funding happen. Tennessee Governor Ned McWhorter.
Thank you very much, Cybill. To our platform guests and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is a very special privilege for me today to come here as the governor of Tennessee. I came here in 1968 as a young member of the Tennessee National Guard to experience a very sad week here. In 1982, when a delegation from Memphis and Shelby County came to my office as Speaker of the House for Tennessee and asked us to participate in the funding for this project, I knew that day I wanted to be a part of this. And to come here with all of our visitors and with all of you, Tennesseans, to rejoice in the contribution that Dr. King made to not only our state, but to this country and to the world. Let's remember this. This, for many years, has been a symbol of sadness. Today, tomorrow, the next generation, and for eternity, this location will be to educate all of us in what equal rights means to an individual. Ladies and gentlemen, my congratulations and my appreciation for all those that are visiting Tennessee today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor. Obviously, in a program like this, it is impossible to hear from all the people who helped make this museum happen or who helped make the movement happen. But I would like to take a few moments to recognize some of the special guests we have with us today. And when I call your name, if you would, if you're standing, raise your hand, and if you're sitting down, please stand. First, our major corporate sponsors: AutoZone, Browning Ferris, Donovan Enterprises, Federal Express, First Tennessee, Hyde Foundation, Malone and Hyde, Chisholm Trail Supermarkets, the Promise Companies,
Tennessee State Legislators,
the Governor of Arkansas, Bill Clinton,
the Memphis City Council,
Shelby County Commission,
all the volunteers who helped with the dedication,
all the unsung heroes involved in the movement. Mrs. Bates.
everybody who believes in civil rights. Let's give them
Let's give everybody a hand. Please.
In a few minutes, we will cut the ribbon to the National Civil Rights Museum, and you'll be able to go inside and see a portion of this facility, which won't be fully completed until August 31st. Tours will begin to my right through the brick gateway, and we will accommodate as many as we can today. You can also enjoy the magnificent sculpture created for the lobby of the museum by Michael Pavlovsky, Movement to Overcome.
Can you hear us okay in the back? I see you waving. No. How's that? Well, now you tell me.
Okay, let's see if we can.
Okay, there will also be live music on stage today until 5 p.m. and tributes to the museum and Dr. King to entertain you as you wait to see the museum. I want to remind all of Memphis that the museum will be open from 10 to 5 through Sunday for free preview tours. You will also find a membership booth behind you in the back, and I encourage all of you to become founding members of the National Civil Rights Museum today.
We'll be hearing shortly from the Roxy Gunner Singers again, but now I'm pleased to welcome home another special guest, the National Director of the NAACP, Mr. Benjamin Hooks.
Thank you very much. I do want you to give a very special hand to one of the women who helped make this day possible long time ago, Daisy Bates from Little Rock, Arkansas. I want you to give her a great big hand in that time that she did. Martin King left many rich legacies. And this ought to be a day of joy and celebration. I was listening to Mayor Morris and Mayor Hackett and even Ned McWhorter. One of the legacies that Martin left, he taught these white folk how to try to hoop and holler. Let's give Martin a good hand. You see him up there, so whoop, 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 whoop. They haven't quite got it, but they're working on it. A little harder than that, you'll have it made. But we ought to thank our governor for a great job he did. This museum is not a symbol of death. This museum is a symbol of life. We don't memorialize the death of Martin King, but we memorialize the life of Martin Luther King Jr. and all of those people who gave their blood, sweat, toil, and tears, and even their lives to make freedom possible. We are all in debt, Brother Howell, to those who are memorialized in this museum, those who marched and walked the streets of Memphis. I will not call the names because I've run out. But we ought to say to America, God has done so much for us, blessed us with mighty mountains and rushing rivers, fertile valleys and abundant resources. Why do we let children go hungry and homeless wander the streets? Why do we have 37 million people with no adequate medical care? America, God has done too much for us to be selfish and mean-hearted. Let us say to President Bush, sign a civil rights bill. Let us say to Congress, rise up and do what is right. Let us say to the Supreme Court, stop marching backward and let you and I from this place go forward and work and labor until justice shall run down like water and righteousness is the mighty stream.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like for you to hear from a man who was very, very important in putting this whole museum together. I see you. The Judge Army Bailey.
He labored to his last as the diligent innkeeper guarding the shrine. And I must thank those who organized with me for over a decade to build this museum. Carl Connor, Jessie Turner, Chuck Scruggs, A.C. Williams. Mr. Bailey and Jessie Turner did not live to see the dream become a reality, and I honor them today. The nation gathers on this 4th of July to celebrate freedom. But our focus here is different. While the rest of the country honors independence from outside forces 215 years past, we celebrate freedoms won within this nation only 20 to 30 years ago. As the rest of the country pays tribute to the men and women of Desert Storm, so do we. But today, we honor the veterans of the civil rights movement. Their blood was shed pursuing freedom on American soil. Today, we spend billions of dollars towards the supposed good of international peace. But what about peace within America? Is the pursuit of domestic tranquility forgotten? The man who heads this country's agenda chose not to join us today. Oh, what a lost opportunity to help unite the country. In accepting the olive branch, what strides might we have made? That question will remain unanswered. The question that will be answered today is, why does this nation need a civil rights museum? And why should it be located in Memphis? America needs the National Civil Rights Museum so that legends like Rosa Parks and ordinary people like Freedom Rider Hank Thomas and thousands of others can finally weep for the senseless loss of life and lifetimes over the right to ride on a bus or eat a sandwich in any restaurant or stay in the hotel of their choosing. Americans need the National Civil Rights Museum because we want the world to know that the movement of the 1950s and the 1960s was no accident. When these brave and ordinary people that we teach about in this museum rose up and said, "My feet is tired, but my soul is rested." When they said, "I ain't gonna let nobody turn me round," these words weren't just for generations past. Americans need the National Civil Rights Museum so that the world will know that ordinary people can make a difference, that seemingly hopeless plights aren't hopeless after all, that in unity there is strength, that right and justice will prevail if you're willing to make the sacrifice. Americans need the National Civil Rights Museum so that young people can fully appreciate the freedoms that they might take for granted today. And through this understanding, may they pursue with vigor the opportunities that they have that my parents only dream of. We reach out through this museum to touch the minds and the spirit of our young. Let them learn of the courage and those 9 tender and brave young high school students at Little Rock who walked through threatening mobs and opened the way for us to have decent integrated schools. Here they will learn that they too have that same capacity for courage. Let our young see in the determination of the college students who faced arrest in the sit-ins to challenge segregated lunch counters. Let them see the reflections of themselves. Yes, that you too can make a difference if you have the courage and the vision to stand up. 28 years ago today, as a student, I was dragged across the steamy, hot pavement outside the Gwynn Oaks Amusement Park in Baltimore County, Maryland, and taken to jail for trying to enter an all-white amusement park. All that I could learn in my textbooks could compare little to what I learned that Independence Day in 1963. The lessons there helped make me a better, stronger, and yes, a more compassionate person today. When I, as a young college student, sat at that white lunch counter in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where the law said I could sit and the white waitress refused to serve me, and I saw the anger, scorn, and even fright in her face, no one could ever make me believe that my black skin color made me inferior to her. In high school, my principal, Blair T. Hunt, used to teach us, you're somebody. As the children say, believe that. No matter how modest your birth or meager your circumstance, you can achieve greatness if it is within you. The scorn and humiliation of years of racial insult creates a heavy layer of suppression over a deep and rich reservoir of worth and talent. We must dig deep and with determination to summon forth the high achievements of which we are capable. Not only does America need the National Civil Rights Museum, so does Memphis. On this holy site 23 years ago, a shot was fired that shook the world. In the dusk of April and only a heartbeat away, they tried to pull the shroud over our vision and spirit, a spirit which has vaulted us in a crusade of courage against racial injustice. As we dedicate this National Civil Rights Museum today, we say to the world, that vision and that spirit lives on. Yes, in Memphis, the king was killed, but today Memphis and the state of Tennessee set an example for others to follow in honoring the civil rights struggle. For men and women of all races and religions, it is my fervent hope that the National Civil Rights Museum gives you the courage to say, that's not fair, the confidence to say, yes, I can, and the strength to take a stand. Thank you.
Judge said you are somebody. Well, I guess you know by now the Reverend Jessie Jackson is here. The Reverend Joseph Lowery is here. And I guess you know by now they've come here back to Memphis to bless this museum. Well, they'll be with you in 1 minute. But first, Judge Bailey and Mrs. Rosa Parks will cut the ribbon officially dedicating the National Civil Rights Museum. Joining them will be a 7-year-old Larry Benson of Memphis to symbolize our hope for the next generation.
I think you will agree that they represent our past, our present, and our future.
We have a choir getting ready to sing our national anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Let me introduce to you the Reverend Joseph Lowery, the head of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference.
Thank you very much. There was a time when many of us found it very painful to even think about coming to this site, but we forgot about a hymn we sing in church. It's called "Lead Me to Calvary." This is the modern day Calvary, where a crusader for peace and justice was crucified. In that song we say, "Lest I forget Gethsemane, lest I forget thine agony, lest I forget thy love for me, lead me to Calvary." And so we're here today, lest we forget Montgomery, lest we forget Birmingham, lest we forget burned Greyhound buses, lest we forget 4 little children slain in Sunday school, lest we forget the man of peace and justice slain on the balcony of Lorraine. Lead me to the Civil Rights Museum that we can forever remember and never let the clock be turned back. And so as I close, we come today to say that this museum will not simply be a corridor down which we take a sentimental journey, but it will be a launching pad from which we move to a new level of movement. For we have miles and miles to go before we sleep. There are still many doors unopened, still many barriers in front of us. We've come today to say we've come too far, marched too long, prayed too hard, wept too bitterly, bled too profusely, and died too young to let anybody turn back the clock. We're going on from this day. We're going on till justice rolls down like waters, till black will not be asked to get back, till brown can stick around, till yellow can be mellow, till the red man can get ahead, and when white will be all right. God bless you, and God bless you.
Honor the legacy of Dr. King today. We thank and praise God for this moment of celebration. We thank especially Judge Amory Bailey, whose tireless efforts made it possible. For all of the distinguished officials who are here today, it's tough to be here. Mrs. King came for the banquet. She's in Atlanta today. It's tough to be here. Dr. Lowery and others came reluctantly. It's tough to be here. I stood here 23 years ago when the fateful shot was fired. It's tough to be here. The wound is still open. It's tough to be here. Here he led his last march, preached his last sermon, gave his last directives, laid out the last agenda, and breathed his last breath. There's a lot of trauma here today. I wondered for a long time why New Testament books were written, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, 50 to 100 years after the crucifixion of Jesus. It was just tough to go back to that place. And yet we must come to this place, because what would our faith be if it were just Bethlehem and stables and mangers? We're not wearing stables around our necks, we're wearing crosses. Because there's something powerful about Calvary. There's blood in that Calvary, and there's redeeming strength in that Calvary. In the real sense, Atlanta is our Bethlehem, and Memphis is our Calvary.
And not far from the spot of the crucifixion, governments can crucify the innocent, but God has the power to roll the stones away. And not far from the site of the crucifixion is the resurrection, the new hope, the new life, the new possibility. And so the president should have been here, but he's not. But we are here, and the Spirit is here. And no Pharaoh, no Nebuchadnezzar, no president can turn us around. Lastly, he said to us, he saw the promised land beyond the mountaintop. And that will be difficult days ahead. There will be anti-civil rights presidents. There will be mean-spirited people in high places. But if we held our heads high,